All right, I'm here with Marcellus, and Marcellus is a Zen student in Europe who has been studying Zen in the institutionalized version of it for 15 years. And he has recently quit institutional Zen. And Marcellus, can you tell us what you have found out and what led you to your departure of institutionalized Zen as we know it?
Yeah, it's as a Zenist, it starts from that, and the questioning of things, questioning my own self, but also questioning what I'm observing. And there have been many phases that I've had in Zen practice, and it took the last phase of my Zen journey so far to really start to question what I've been I've been getting taught this whole time, and what's sort of been forced on me and forced on a lot of students who try and make an attempt to follow this path. Yeah.
What what specifically brought your what specifically brought your critical attention to what you were being taught? Was it something that was it one thing in particular, or was it something a combination
It's
of things?
definitely a combination of things. The first phase I had was in Zen Mountain Monastery, and I was 20 at the time. And coming from where I come from, this was pretty unique, a unique situation for me, and also a unique situation for those at Zen Mountain. And I call this phase the honeymoon phase. And so I've had a really good relationship with Daido Roshi. I was not there when he passed away, but we really had a good relationship, and he actually was the one that saved my life. Um, Coming from the background that I've come from, then I joined the Sangha years later in the Netherlands. It's called Zen River Sangha, and it's there that I've actually, from the first time I stepped foot into those doors, I knew something was wrong, and I didn't know exactly what. So it took me quite a few years. It took time, energy, and money to actually figure out what exactly was wrong. And just recently, I've had contact with the Zen River Sangha again, and it confirmed my observations as to why institutionalized Zen uh, it gets the practitioner nowhere. It's just it's a bunch of baloney.
Yeah. So what sort of can you give me an example of one or two things at Zen River in Netherlands that you
Yeah.
thought was completely garbage?
Well, start from the beginning. I've always been a part of the White Plum Sangha, the White Plum school. I don't know if you do you know a
So
bit
the
about the White.
So the White Plum Sangha, that is the
Yeah,
overall Sambo Kyodan kind of parent organization, I believe.
yeah,
And they call themselves Sambo Zen now. They've changed their name away from the Harada Yasutani original name.
yeah,
So, just for the viewers to understand that the Sambo Kyodan is in Japanese means new lineage, and it was a creation of Harada Roshi and Yasutani Roshi, two Japanese elderly men who had very dubious World War II connections. Nobody quite knows what they did, and they don't say. but they do say that they fought in World War II with Japan. So what ended up happening was they created a new lineage, and it was a break from the Soto Shu and the Rinzai Shu, which are known in Japan for being quite repressive and quite strict. So this is, and so in Japan, the Sambo Kyodan kind of became a controversial thing, and it was immediately labeled by the Japanese Tokyo University as a new religion, which is um, kind of a signal for cult in Japan,
Yeah.
and they're always kind of wary of new religions, given you know, subway gassing to stuff like that happened. So Sambo Kyodan moved into the United States, most famously with Philip Kapleau, who is probably one of their most famous Westerners who has taken up that particular lineage. And then it's moved on since, and it's one of the more prominent Western lineages in the United States and Europe is the Sambo Kyodan. Though it is controversial that they use a mix of koan teachings and Soto, and they also tend to have, like I said, they claim they're traditional, but you would be hard pressed to find out how they're traditional. You can't really pin that down. So that's basically Sambo Kyodan in a nutshell. So Marcelo, you got involved in the Sambo Kyodan, and probably never were explained any of this when
No,
you joined up.
it all started for me from what I've gathered about the White Plum Sangha is that, Mazumi Roshi is our pioneer, so to speak. And that's where basically our lineage really starts from Mazumi Roshi, which,
Right,
yeah, he came and he transmitted. So, for example, my first encounter with Dada Roshi. Dada Roshi is one of the first students of Mazumi Roshi.
right.
And yeah,
So the
uh,
Maizumi also has quite a background as well.
yeah,
He was accused of sexual relationships with an underage girl,
yeah,
and he was a notorious drinker, and where he checked himself into the Betty Ford Rehab Center for quite some time.
yeah,
So this is, I mean, we're talking about this is kind of a checkered past. Also from the same organization, we have Dennis Mertzel, who
yeah,
was known for having affairs with the wives of Sangha members.
yeah. This is the teacher of my teacher.
And we also have Tony Packard, who turned her back on Sambo Kyodan, renouncing it. The same thing with Charlotte Joko Beck, who not only turned her back on the organization, but she went off and started her own religion after that.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Uh,
So this is Sambo Kyodan in a nutshell, which is a lot of people who get involved in this. Like I said, they don't know any of the stuff until they get way deep in, and then they start to understand that they're in quite a broken organization. So Marcelo, you got involved in the. How long have you been
sorry.
after you did the training in Zen Mountain? When did you come to the Netherlands and started sitting with the Zen River group?
I've my first encounter with Zen Mountain was back in 2007, and I stayed there for an 8 month period. I had to leave because I broke the rules in a sort of way. I started a relationship, and we were told that we shouldn't start a relationship until after a year in residency. And so this was the reason I left. I actually really wanted to stay there. It was my dream from this moment to become a Zen monk. It was always my dream. So the years passed. I had a son during this time, and I'm a person who goes through a lot of struggles. And it was back in 2013 where I decided, in between these years, I still considered myself a Zen Buddhist. But it took me until 2013 to actually try and find, to go out and find a Sangha. So my relationship with Zen River has been since 2013. And yeah.
So when you were at Zen Mountain, uh, when did you inform them of your intentions to make um, Zen a profession?
Immediately.
And did they put you in a training program?
I was given, in comparison to Zen River, then I was given a scholarship, so I didn't have to pay to be in residency. The training program in Zen Mountain, in terms of advancing in the lineage, so to speak, ceremonially with Jukai and Shukai Tukido to become a monk. It's a very long and strenuous process. And I made this clear from the start that this is what I wanted to do. This is what I wanted to be. And I've had the Dokusan I've had with Daido Roshi. He also noticed that, and he was the first person in my life up to that point to really believe in me and to to really say that, yeah, I'm going to be a Zen monk at some point. And yeah,
Is it still your wish to be a Zen monk?
it's still my wish, but in the not in the in what I've called now the institutionalized, and not in these lineages that we have now. I think there needs to be a whole new approach, especially in the West, in America and Europe. And until I'm dead, I'm still relatively young. I'm 35, and I will continue to work on myself, but also to work on an idea of what the monastic order, how can it really be used to create the so-called Buddhas rather than to create what's coming out of these monasteries now, you know. And I see no, especially like in terms of the Zen River Sangha, I see no one who I can consider a mastermind, someone who I can consider as a person that holds great insight or great wisdom. And so this is why I will not be involved in their traditions any longer.
So generally, in traditional Zen training from Japan, the initiate would sit 7 days facing a wall, which is called Tongaryo.
Yeah.
And so you did that.
No, this was the practice at Zen Mountain. In Zen River, there's not such a practice. That was not.
So, but at Zen Mountain, you sat Tongaryo the 7 days.
No, I didn't because I was just there 8 months, like I said before I had to leave.
Okay.
It was going to be my goal, but I never really. I received Jukai in Zen River in the Netherlands. In Zen Mountain, it was just basically the introduction for me into the Zen.
So they never offered you the opportunity for formal they never offered you anything like Tongaryo, the formal initiatory process, nor did they ever offer you monk ordination, and they did not offer you transmission. Is that correct?
At Zen Mountain, no.
That
They
is
they have
very odd.
yeah, they have a particular way. I think it is pretty odd, but I can see the why they use it like this. I think they maybe had issues of people receiving Jukai or receiving Shoge Tokudo, and then they end up leaving and never come back. So they really try to test if you're really um, motivated, so to speak, as you claim. And so it takes years to even um, be even considered to be a monk, even
Yeah,
though
okay.
in private Dokusan with Dada Roshi, he told me like he sees that in me, he knows, and this is my calling, so to speak, and
Okay.
yeah,
So I also I find it interesting because I have heard the same thing that some organizations make the students wait 3 years, some five
yeah,
years. Some I have seen people come literally walk in and be ordained within 2 or 3 months
yeah.
of these organizations. So it seems arbitrary and capricious to me as to who they ordain and who they don't. That was my observation. So you went to the Zen Mountain Monastery, and I'm taking it you fell in love with somebody,
Yeah,
and then decided. I guess both of you decided that you were going to leave.
we had to leave. It was against the rules. And I was in my first year of scholarship there, and I'm 20 at the time. I fell in love with the woman, and she fell back in love, and we had to reveal this. We tried to keep it a secret for a while, but it had to be revealed, and then we were asked to leave.
Sure. So as the viewer should know, that there is no prohibitions, at least within the Japanese version of the Zen monk, for intimate relationships.
No,
However, I do find it interesting that they asked you to leave because you were there 8 months. Had you only been there a month or less, I can see that.
yeah.
But for being there 8 months and then asking you to leave, it sounds like there was something more. Somebody decided they wanted you gone.
I think um, I actually think that they really wanted me to stay because they were pretty upset about, especially the senseis there were pretty upset about this whole situation and that broke the rules. I think they were more upset with the woman that I started the relationship with. I don't think because if there's rules that they set up and they give one person the advantage or the freedom that others don't, it's going to change the dynamic of what rules really are. And so I don't think there was a goal really to push me out. I was still in the honeymoon phase and very willing to open myself up to them. I just, unfortunately, or fortunately, I don't know, um, made a decision to be in a relationship with her, and this woman eventually became the mother of my son. So there's there's no regrets of that decision.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay, I understand what you're saying between
uh,
the lines. That sounds like they were more angry at her than you,
uh,
and I get that. So you and her decided to leave, and did you come directly to the Netherlands, or did you go somewhere else after that?
the mother of my son, she's German, and I'm actually from the Bahamas in the Caribbean. And we tried to spend some time in the Bahamas. We already knew that we wanted to be married, and eventually we got married, and then I moved with her to Germany. And during this time, I'm still a Zen Buddhist in regards that I I don't look at Zazen today as I did years ago, but I thought I always was a Zen Buddhist because I can sit on a zafu um, and offer incense to my Buddha statue, and yeah. So it took quite a few years until I went to the Netherlands. The reason I chose it because number one, it was it was part of the White Plum lineage, and second of all, it's an international monastery, so they use English as the main language there, even though it's in the Netherlands.
So, as a were you given anything like a card or a letter or anything that would basically claim that you were a member of the White Plum lineage?
Yes, it's all recorded in paperwork. Yeah, I forgot the name of the. We have an ancestral lineage, and a part of this process of receiving Jukai. Receiving Jukai is basically converting to Buddhism, you know, and this is all documented. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm guessing then when you went to the Netherlands Zen River, they were overjoyed to see you.
They were overjoyed. The first interaction I had once I said that I have experience in Zen Mountain Monastery. This was already an acceptance that even though everybody's welcome, but yes, I was warmly welcome. Even though, to be honest, the first time I walked in those doors, I knew something was wrong. But it took a while to figure out exactly what this feeling I had, what's going wrong here. It took a while to really figure that out.
So let's dive into that
Yeah,
sort of nagging feeling that came to you from that first day of something wasn't quite right,
yeah,
or as the English expression would say, that there's something rotten in Denmark.
yeah.
What exact can you give us more insight into what that is, what that led up to be?
The first time I walked in those doors, I didn't know what I was expecting, but the atmosphere once I walked in, it disappointed me because it didn't feel like I was walking into a Zen monastery. It felt like I was walking into a cult. And this is what immediately, immediately came to my attention. And the first time I went to Zen River, it was only supposed to be for a month that I was going through a difficult time after my divorce and my father died, and I wanted to be a part of a sangha again and to get back into meditation. So my first plan was to be there only for a month because I had a life going in Germany, um, and so during this month, a lot of things changed. From the first day and the first encounter, this cult feeling I felt, I had to literally fight this feeling because I really wanted to be there. And so my gut instincts, I went against that, and I just followed through. And with
So
yeah,
what sort of I mean, I need to kind of dig into this because you're claiming that the organization immediately struck you as a cult.
yeah.
And so generally there are certain indicators of that, but just in your opinion, what specifics gave you this impression? What things did they do or say, or who did you encounter that gave you this impression?
And just for the record, I'm saying these things. It is not going against these people. I feel that I'm not the victim here. I feel they're more of the victims. So I would like to make this clear before I go further. But the first time I met Tenkei Roshi, who's became my teacher, and I automatically felt that he was someone that I have to be careful with. because of his whole demeanor, his whole presence, that it seems very like a cult-like figure. And then eventually met the Sangha members, and they all have this robotic type of way of following him, in a sense, as they don't question him at all. They don't judge what he has to say. It's just he is the teacher, he is the Zen master, and everything he says is gospel, which I found myself pretty hard to do because I do have a rebellious spirit, and I also use skepticism as a part of my path. And just to, be a little bit skeptic, you can see that something was going wrong. There was among the Sangha members, they did have a heart, but it seemed very robotic. It seemed that there was nothing authentic, there was nothing genuine, there was no real expression. And I'm a person that I can express myself a lot, and noticing that the way people express themselves, it had to be according to what Tenkei Roshi allowed, or what he considered as a right way to express oneself. And everybody followed this procedure. Everybody you talk to will will be the same person, you know.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
so if you would he get angry or wanting to punish people who did not conform to what he wanted?
Yeah, I'm the perfect case, and in my residency, I'm the perfect case for such a thing. And the game that he played with me, because I also went through this trust and doubt situation. I mostly had doubts. The trust will come once I've I've been weakened enough. And so I think that the punishment, I don't even know if he did this consciously or unconsciously, but it's like they bring you up and then they drop you down. If you catch my drift, they
No,
would,
I know exactly what you're talking about.
yeah. And so and the way down, falling down, is the part that hurts the most, and the part that really causes, especially for a person like me, more confusion in terms of am I doing the right thing here? And so it's sort of they create this constant doubt in your mind, and if you don't go along with what's happening, they will play that game. They will really play that game to make you look like, I think you mentioned it in your last interview, but they will blame it on something as karmic circumstances. It's your fault why you are in this.
Oh yes, always
Yeah,
blame the student for the
yeah,
problems. Yes, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. We that is a well-known cult tactic, which is
yeah,
you are your own problem, and the problem is you, not us.
yeah,
Yes, we've seen that before over and over again, and it's a very prominent cult tactic. It's also a tactic used by psychopathic narcissists to
yeah,
they would blame their target for the way that they are acting towards them.
yeah,
They would say things like, "I'm doing this for your own good," or "It is you that is making me act this way." This
yeah,
is how they would come at you. And unfortunately, we have seen this with Zen Roshis, especially the more notorious ones that have been documented. And it sounds like you've encountered something along these lines.
yes, definitely. My teacher, as far as I know, I don't know what happens behind closed doors, and I don't know what's happened. I haven't seen him in 5 years. I have been in the Netherlands a few weeks ago, to visit my mentor, but I haven't seen my teacher in 5 years, so I don't know what's developed. But I think his predatory ways as a Zen master is running the monastery like a business. And this is where it started for me this is where the questioning started of looking at Zen as a business. And then I started to figure out who his teacher is, Dennis Gampo Merzel, like you mentioned. And this guy I totally despise. I'm not a person who will carry hate in my heart, but this guy in particular, um, it was really lucky that we never crossed paths because I think I would have really punched him in the face, um, because of what he did, uh, in the name of the Dharma, and this is my teacher's teacher. And every morning during our services, we would offer incense and prayers to Genpo, which for me was a complete insult that I have to sit here and pray for this guy, you know. And so
Yeah.
questioning Genpo himself made me question my own teacher because what they call the transmission of the Dharma, and if you start back from my Zumi Roshi, and if these people, they call themselves Zen masters, and yet they've not mastered their own preferences, their own goals to to put themselves on a pedestal, and that everybody has to bow down to them. I see no transmission of the Dharma then.
Oh no, you're not talking about the Dharma. You're talking about a mafia.
We're talking about a mafia. We are.
That's right. We are
Now,
talking about a mafia there.
except they're not gangsters. They're
Oh,
not gangsters.
but let me ask you a few questions because you said a key word, which is they treated Zen like a business,
Yeah.
which means then that they had a racket, which they were charging the students money
Yeah.
for teachings, money. So can you give us a little bit of insight into were the fees exorbitant, or were they really going after what we would call whales, very rich people, or what gave you the indication that maybe this was a business?
The what I've seen is that, um, Sangha members there are expendable. You can come there and you. So first of all, the ideas behind Buddhism, especially to a Westerner, these ideas are easy to sell. Yeah, ideas about enlightenment, about the Buddha way, and then we have all the fancy words that come with that, Satori, Kensho, Samadhi, all these different words. They're so easy to sell to somebody who says, "Oh yes, I really want to be on the path of awakening." And so that's why I've always called it, they package the Dharma. The Dharma here, and it's a package, and now we're going to sell it to you. And I've seen this happen from the beginning. Once I noticed there was no scholarship involved. I know they had to pay off the bank for the monastery itself. But if you have dedicated students, um, you know, I feel that there shouldn't be any business transaction going on, and that's where it started for me. And you come, people will pay, and they will pay, and then they receive what they think is the Dharma. And for me, the Dharma and Zen itself is not a business. You know, we can have a monastery in a shack, if that's all we had. To me, it was always what happens when you remove the interior of a monastery. If you remove the Buddha statues, if you remove the decorations, you remove all these things that people think is Buddhism. What happens if we remove that? Can you still be a Zenist then? Can you still be on this path? And I think the idea is what they sell to people. And this is, for me, something I consider as corruption. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, because G.U. Kennett wrote about that. She wrote a book called Selling Water by the River,
Mm.
and sort of the aspect of monetizing the Dharma and Zen.
What's the
And
name?
the book is called Selling Water by the River.
Okay.
And it talks about this monetization of the Dharma and
Yeah.
the problems that it brings doing that. The other there's also a reactionary group. I recently discovered a group called Moss Covered Robe, which is in the Northwest, and they meet in parks, and they absolutely will have made it very clear there is no monetary exchange.
Yeah.
So there is a definite reaction to this recognition of the corruption that is going on. And
Yeah.
I have also encountered other students claiming or telling me of the rather stiff fees and the monthly fees that they have to pay to
Oh
go
yeah.
to
Yeah.
the larger Zen centers. And it's always justified away as, well, it's dana, or it's a charitable giving, it's a support. And I always would say things like, "Well, what if you don't pay? What happens then?" And then they kind of say, "Well, then you're not going to go." And I'm
Yeah.
like, "Okay, so it's more that you're paying admission. You're paying. You're not. It's not really a charitable giving after all. It's you're paying."
I'm paying. Yeah.
So this particular Zen River, then, as you said, they treated the students as disposable
Yep.
and using the carrot of enlightenment and satori and spiritual knowledge, and of course Zen in itself is a calling card
Yep.
as the attraction. Um, and so you saw this, and you saw the kind of behavior and attitudes. How long did you said you took this particular person on as your teacher? How long did you stay with that particular teacher?
For just a little over 3 years. A little over 3 years. Yep. Until I decided that it was many events that led to me leaving. But eventually I left.
Mhm.
And actually, for 2 years, I completely denounced Buddhism and denounced being a Zenist. But it for me, the greatest teaching I've got from my teacher was um, when I left and denouncing all the teachings that they were trying to force on me, and that I have to actually I have defined teachings and everything now. I have defined the Dharma and everything. And so this is the approach that I've been dealing with ever since I've left. And like I said, I tried to make contact recently, uh, just testing, uh, as a test for myself, testing the waters, if I could actually vision myself being a typical Zen Buddhist again, but also testing the insights and of my own mentor, the successor of my teacher. And so it the whole experience opened my eyes even more. And now I know for certain that I will never be a part of the institutionalized um, thing that we call Zen. Uh,
All right. So, what do you see in the future for yourself? More just independent study, or will you be looking for other groups?
I think, I'm still working on myself a lot, and this is a part of my Zen practice. But I'm also trying to find my voice, um, because the voice that I had in Zen River, they tried to take that away from me. I noticed it from the beginning that the voice and the confidence that I have, when if I have to present the Dharma, it comes from the heart. I'm not looking in a book. I have nothing wrong with people who read books, but I'm not looking at a book to gather some information and then give a Dharma lecture on it. I can see these things just by observation. And so what I say comes from the heart. And it took a long time to actually even begin to start this journey again to find my voice because it has been a traumatic experience of what I went through and during my residency, and I'm still. It's only been within the past few weeks and months that I've let go of that trauma, and now I can
All
move
right.
on. I can sit on
Well,
my I can sit on my zafu again and not have a bad feeling in my stomach.
that's the path.
Yeah,
Relinquishing, renunciation, and abandonment.
yeah,
That is what I always cite as the practice. And it is very hard to let go of things. I let go of it all years ago. I spent
yeah.
17 years myself silent. Um, and
17 years.
17 years
Yeah,
silent, not a word.
yeah,
And it sometimes, you it takes a little while, it takes some time to heal, but it also takes some time to just let go, to
yeah,
just renounce it, to relinquish it, to not hold on to it. And so, I applaud your courage to speak. I think that you're speaking for a lot of people who, like you said, had their voice robbed from them.
yeah,
And we can only, hope to give them encouragement to seek a different path, or seek a higher path.
yeah. Definitely, definitely. There's, you know, even in all of this, I can't hate these people. I feel sorry for these individuals who have put themselves in the position to turn Zen into an industry, but at the same time, I will find a voice to speak out against that. And I don't know if I would have to do it on my own, or there will be others like me who realize this as well, and that we can do it together. But there has to be a stop to what's going on in Zen, and I would definitely play a role in that. And I do represent those that were taken advantage of. I've seen many people along the way, especially the younger generation, that they don't find this attractive. I give this tradition that they're having now 10 or 15 more years, and then it's going to eventually start to crumble on its own. You know, and compared to other religions, I think Zen Buddhism still has a chance to be saved, and that's why I'm here talking to you. And um, you know, and as far as going about saving the Zen practice, this is something I will be working on inwardly. And
All right.
yeah,
All right. Well, it's been a pleasure having you on my channel,
yeah,
and we hope to interview you again in the future when you have new developments.
yeah, definitely. It was really nice to talk with you.